The world is full of unpleasant people. Even the movies and TV shows we watch are full of them. But this video isn't about the top 10 rotten schmucks in the world. It's about former world leaders. These are people whose crimes against humanity or attempts to conquer completely overshadow any good they may have done in life, all listed in no particular order. So let's do a quick rundown on history's top 10 world leaders who were complete assholes. Genghis Khan was a brilliant strategist who united the Mongols and then annihilated entire cities to make a point. His empire reshaped Eurasia through trade and terror, leaving a genetic legacy and a body count to match. He was ill for several months after falling off of his horse and eventually died. Though the total is unknown, Genghis is believed to have had a great many children due to polygyny, concubines, and rape. Genghis Khan wasn't just a conqueror of land, he reshaped the genetic map of Eurasia. Few individuals in history have left such a literal biological footprint. As a Cambodian dictator and leader of the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot attempted to reset society to year zero, meaning he wanted to destroy all existing culture and traditions and start from scratch. Intellectuals, professionals, and even people who wore glasses were executed. Roughly 2 million people, a quarter of Cambodia's population, died under his rule. Tens of thousands of Cambodians were first tortured before then being murdered by their own government. Leopold II may be best known as the King of Belgians, and his reign lasted 44 years. However, history remembers that he owned the Congo Free State and ran it as a private business venture fueled by forced labor, mutilation, and mass death. He amassed a personal fortune through the collection of ivory and harvesting rubber. If the slaves didn't meet production quotas, torture, murder, and amputation were amongst the punishments handed out. Leopold never set foot in the Congo Free State. This was colonial exploitation distilled to its purest cruelty. Adolf Hitler was a failed artist who became history's most catastrophic ideologue. As leader of Germany, he engineered genocide on an industrial scale, plunged Europe into war, and redefined how humanity understands evil. Hitler wasn't the first leader to fantasize about racial supremacy. What made Hitler distinctive was how systematically and violently he attempted to turn those ideas into state policy. Among the Nazis' non-combat victims were people of Jewish descent, the Romani, people with disabilities, Polish and Slavic civilians, political opponents, Jehovah's Witnesses, homosexuals, the homeless, sex workers, and others who they considered undesirable. The bar was set here, and it remains high. Hitler's contemporary, Joseph Stalin, much like Russia's current leader, was a paranoid maniac, and that paranoia helped create policy. Through purges, engineered famines, gulags, and terror, Stalin's policies killed an estimated 15 to 20 million of his own citizens, often in the name of protecting them. Can you imagine murdering so many people that your own government can't keep a solid tally? He deported entire ethnic groups, such as Chechens, Crimean Tatars, Volga Germans, and others. Due to his paranoia of potential political rivalry, he decimated the Red Army Officer Corps, weakening Soviet readiness before World War II. In the Soviet Union under Stalin, loyalty was temporary, fear was permanent. Mao Zedong was a visionary revolutionary and catastrophic administrator. He was the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1943 until his death. He launched the industrialization campaign known as the Great Leap Forward and the socio-political movement known as the Cultural Revolution, which led to tens of millions of deaths through famine, persecution, and ideological zealotry. Under Mao, China became history's deadliest social experiment. Vlad III, commonly known as Vlad the Impaler, or Vlad Dracula, inspired the Dracula myth not through fantasy, but through methodical brutality. Vlad ruled Wallachia, a historical principality which is now part of modern Romania, 3 times. He believed order was best enforced through fear and ruled with an obsession for discipline, obedience, and loyalty. Extreme punishments were handed out for petty crimes, and he would make entire families, or even villages, suffer for the actions of one person. He invited members of the noble class to feasts, then had many arrested, enslaved, or executed. Of course, the most infamous fact about Vlad was that he had a vast range of people, including Ottoman envoys, Turkish soldiers, rebellious Wallachian boyars, merchants, criminals, beggars, and his own enemies, impaled on sharpened wooden pikes. Impalement was not symbolic, it was administrative. Terror was policy, and policy was effective. Henry Tudor, or King Henry VIII, executed wives, friends, advisors, and religious dissenters with remarkable enthusiasm. He created a new church largely to accommodate his marital preferences. Henry had a total of 6 wives. 2 were executed due to exaggerated claims of treason and adultery. 2 died of natural causes. 2 of his marriages were annulled or ended in divorce. He executed Thomas More, who was one of his closest friends and confidants, because More refused to endorse Henry's break with Rome. Other friends named Thomas who he had executed were Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, Thomas Cromwell, Thomas Boleyn, and Thomas Cranmer. With Henry, intimacy increased risk rather than safety, and personal inconvenience often proved fatal to others. Apparently, being named Thomas was a very particular risk factor as well. Francisco Pizarro was a Spanish conquistador, best known for conquering the Inca Empire, but many of the defining details of his career paint him as ruthlessly opportunistic and brutal. Driven by wealth and status, he conquered the Incas through betrayal, disease, and violence. In 1532, he lured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa into a trap at Cajamarca, capturing him during what was presented as a peaceful meeting. Despite receiving an enormous ransom, rooms filled with gold and silver, Pizarro had Atahualpa executed anyway. He then dismantled the Inca political system, installing puppet rulers, while Spanish forces looted cities and dismantled religious sites. Indigenous populations were subjected to forced labor, violence, and exploitation, often under systems that blurred conquest with enslavement. He forged a path of devastation that reshaped South America forever, mostly for the worse. Idi Amin, the 3rd president of Uganda, was a self-styled strongman whose reign was marked by arbitrary executions, mass murder, ethnic persecution, and economic collapse. As a former army officer, Amin seized power in a coup and quickly turned the state into a personal terror machine. Through a lethal combination of brutality and incompetence, he ordered the killing of political opponents, soldiers, intellectuals, and entire ethnic groups, with estimates of the dead ranging from 100,000 to 500,000. He rather obnoxiously gave himself the title of His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada, VC, DSO, MC, Lord of all the beasts on earth, and fishes of the seas, and conqueror of the British Empire and Africa in general, and Uganda in particular. Under Amin, arrests were arbitrary, disappearances routine, and loyalty was enforced through fear. Charismatic, unpredictable, and lethally incompetent. A volatile combination.